I was folding laundry in our bedroom when my husband Derek walked in and said the words he had said 1,000 times before. "You're completely useless, Monica. 20 years of marriage, and what have you contributed?" "Nothing." I stood there holding his freshly ironed shirt, the same shirt I had washed, dried, and pressed that morning, and said nothing. Because that's what I had learned to do over 2 decades. Stay quiet, accept the insults, believe that maybe he was right. My name is Monica Harper. I'm 45 years old, and for 20 years, I believed I was exactly what my husband said I was. Useless. Derek was a successful investment banker. He made $300,000 a year and never let me forget it. Every conversation somehow circled back to his salary, his achievements, his importance, and my worthlessness. "You don't work," he would say during dinner. "You don't earn money. You just stay home all day doing what? Watching TV? Any idiot can do laundry and cook." I had stopped working when our daughter Emma was born 18 years ago. Derek had insisted. "I make enough for both of us," he had said back then, with what I thought was love. "Stay home with our baby. Be a full-time mother." So I did. I gave up my career as a high school English teacher. I gave up my salary of $48,000 a year. I gave up my independence, my colleagues, my identity beyond wife and mother. And at first I was happy. I loved being with Emma, watching her grow, being there for every milestone. But somewhere along the way, Derek's tone changed. What started as "you don't need to work" became "you don't do anything." What began as appreciation for my homemaking became contempt for my lack of contribution. "You live in my house," he would remind me constantly. "You drive my car. You spend my money. Everything you have, I gave you." My house, my car, my money. Never ours, always his. Emma had left for college 3 months ago, and without her in the house, the silence between Derek and me had become deafening. The house that I had cleaned, organized, and maintained for 20 years suddenly felt like a prison. That Tuesday morning, after Derek left for work with his freshly ironed shirt, I walked to the mailbox like I did every day. Bills, advertisements, credit card offers, and then a thick envelope from First National Bank with my name on it, Monica Sarah Harper, not Mrs. Derek Harper, just my name. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter on official bank letterhead. "Dear Ms. Harper, we are writing to inform you about account number 8473992, which was opened in your name by your late grandmother, Sylvia Morrison, in 1985. As per her instructions, this account was to remain sealed until your 45th birthday. You turned 45 on October 3rd. The current balance of this account, including accumulated interest over 40 years, is $847,920.16. I read it 3 times. Then 4. Then I sat down on the porch steps and read it again. $847,920.16. My grandmother Sylvia had died when I was 5 years old. I barely remembered her, but apparently she had left me nearly $1 million and I had no idea. The letter continued, "Your grandmother left specific instructions that you were not to be informed of this account until your 45th birthday. She also left a sealed letter for you, which is enclosed." With shaking fingers, I opened the second envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter in faded ink. "My dearest Monica, if you are reading this, you are now 45 years old, and I am long gone. I set up this account for you when you were born because I know something about life that you will learn eventually. Financial independence is freedom. I watched my own mother stay in a terrible marriage because she had no money of her own. I watched my sister endure abuse because she couldn't afford to leave. I was lucky. I married a good man who respected me, but I also kept my own money, my own accounts, my own independence. This money is yours. Not your husband's if you have one, not your children's, yours. Use it to live free. Use it to choose your own path. Use it to remember that your worth is not determined by what others think of you. With all my love, Grandma Sylvia. I sat on those porch steps for an hour, crying tears I didn't know I had been holding in for years. My grandmother, who I barely remembered, had given me something Derek never had. She had given me worth. That evening, Derek came home at 7:30 p.m., same as always. I had dinner ready, same as always. Pot roast with vegetables, his favorite. "Smells good," he said, loosening his tie. It was the closest thing to a compliment I had received in months. "What did you do all day? Besides this?" I looked at him across the dining table, this man who had shared my bed for 20 years, this man who had fathered my daughter, this man who had systematically destroyed my self-worth one insult at a time. "I got some interesting mail today," I said calmly. "Bills?" "Don't worry, I'll pay them. Like I pay everything else." He smirked, cutting into his roast. "No, a letter from First National Bank." He looked up, confused. "First National? We don't bank there. We use Capital Trust." "You use Capital Trust," I corrected. "I apparently have an account at First National. Have had one for 40 years. His fork stopped midway to his mouth. "What are you talking about?" "My grandmother left me money. A lot of money. I just found out today." The silence that followed was delicious. I watched the confusion cross his face, then the calculation, then the forced casual tone. "That's great, honey. How much are we talking about?" "We." There it was. $847,920.16, I said, watching his eyes widen. "And it's not we. It's mine. Only my name is on the account." Derek put down his fork. I could see his mind working, already planning how to access it, control it, spend it. "Well, obviously you'll transfer it to our joint account. We should invest it properly. I know some excellent—" "No." The word hung in the air like a bomb. "No?" He repeated the word as if he had never heard it from me before, and truthfully, he probably hadn't. Not in 20 years. "No, Derek. This money is mine. My grandmother specifically left instructions that it was for me alone, for my independence, for my freedom." His face darkened. "Your freedom? What the hell does that mean? You're my wife. What's yours is mine. That's how marriage works." "Actually," I said, standing up to clear my plate, "that's not how marriage works. Or at least that's not how it should work. What's mine has always been ours. But what's yours has always been yours. Your house, your car, your money. Remember?" "Monica, sit down. We need to talk about this rationally. I am being rational. For the first time in years, I'm thinking very clearly. You're being ridiculous. That money should be in a family account. We can use it for Emma's education, for retirement, for—" "Emma's education is already paid for. You remind me constantly how you're covering her $60,000 a year tuition, and your retirement account is worth over $2 million. You told me that just last week when you were explaining why we couldn't afford to remodel the kitchen I've been asking about for 5 years. Derek stood up, and I saw something in his face I had never seen before. Panic. For the first time in our marriage, I had something he couldn't control. "You're not thinking straight," he said, his voice taking on that condescending tone he used when he wanted to make me feel stupid. "You don't know anything about managing money. You'll lose it all within a year. Be sensible." "Sensible?" I laughed, and it felt foreign in my mouth. When was the last time I had laughed? "Derek, I've been managing this household's budget for 20 years on the allowance you give me. I've stretched $500 a week to cover groceries, household items, Emma's needs, and anything else this family required. I think I know something about managing money." "That's completely different." "You're right. It is different, because now I have actual money to manage, not just scraps." He stepped closer, his 6-foot frame towering over my 5'4". "Monica, I'm warning you. Don't do something you'll regret." For 20 years, that tone would have made me back down. That implied threat would have made me apologize, agree, submit. But not today. Today I had $847,920.16, and a grandmother who believed I was worth something. "The only thing I regret," I said quietly, "is wasting 20 years believing I was useless." I walked out of the dining room, leaving him standing there with his half-eaten pot roast. That night, Derek didn't come to bed. I heard him in his home office, making phone calls. I knew he was calling lawyers, asking about marital assets, looking for loopholes. Let him search. My grandmother had been very thorough. The account was mine, set up before my marriage, with clear documentation that it was a premarital inheritance, held in trust. The next morning, I woke up early and drove to First National Bank. The manager, Mrs. Patricia Chen, greeted me personally. "Ms. Harper, we've been waiting for this day. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. She came in every year to check on this account, to adjust it, to make sure everything was perfect for when you turned 45. "Did she say why 45? I asked. Mrs. Chen smiled. She said by 45, a woman knows who she really is. She's lived enough to understand her worth. She's experienced enough to make wise decisions. And if she's in a bad situation, she's young enough to start over. My grandmother had understood something I was only now learning. She'd given me freedom at exactly the right time. "I'd like to open a checking account," I said, "just in my name, and I need to understand all my options for this money." Mrs. Chen spent 2 hours with me, explaining investments, interest rates, financial planning. For the first time in 20 years, I wasn't asking permission to spend $50. I was making decisions about nearly $1 million. When I got home that afternoon, Derek was waiting in the living room. He had taken the day off work, something he never did. "We need to talk," he said. His voice was different, controlled, calculated. "I've been thinking about what you said last night, and you're right. I haven't always appreciated everything you do for this family." I set my purse down and looked at him. This was new. "I'm sorry," he continued. "I know I can be harsh sometimes. But it's only because I work so hard and I get stressed. You know how demanding my job is. 20 years of his excuses played in my head. The job stress, the pressure, the expectation that I should understand why he came home angry, why he criticized everything, why nothing I did was ever good enough. "Derek, what do you want?" He looked wounded. "I want to make things right between us. I want us to be a team again, partners, which is why I think we should put your inheritance into a joint account. Not because I want to control it, but because we're married. We should share everything." "Like we've shared everything for the past 20 years?" I asked. "Like how we shared the decision about where to live?" "You chose this house. Or how we shared the decision about my career. You decided I should quit. Or how we shared finances. You gave me an allowance like I was a child." "That's not fair." "Fair?" My voice rose for the first time. "You've called me useless for years. You've made me feel worthless. You've treated me like a servant in my own home. And now that I have money, suddenly you want to be partners?" "Monica, please. I love you. I know I don't say it enough, but I do. We can go to counseling. We can work on this. But don't let money come between us." And there it was. The truth he couldn't quite hide. He didn't love me. He loved control. And money was control. "Derek, I want a divorce." The words came out clearly, firmly. I had been thinking them all night, but saying them out loud made them real. His false kindness evaporated instantly. "You want a divorce? After everything I've given you, after 20 years? You haven't given me anything except 20 years of feeling worthless. I'm done." "You'll get nothing," he snarled. "I'll fight you on every penny. My lawyers will destroy you." "Actually," I said calmly. In Washington state, we have a community property law. I'm entitled to half of everything accumulated during our marriage. Half the house, half your retirement, half your investments. And my inheritance? That stays mine. Premarital assets aren't subject to division. His face went purple. You've been planning this. You've been talking to lawyers. No, I've been talking to Mrs. Chen at First National Bank. She's very knowledgeable about Washington state law. She also recommended an excellent divorce attorney. I have an appointment tomorrow. Derek stood up, and for a moment I thought he might explode. But then something changed. He took a breath, straightened his tie, and looked at me with cold contempt. Fine. You want to leave? Leave. But you'll be poor again. You think $847,000 is a lot of money? That's less than 3 years of my salary. You'll burn through it and come crawling back. And I won't be here. I'm counting on that, I replied. He grabbed his car keys and walked out. I heard his Mercedes speed out of the driveway, tires screeching. And for the first time in 20 years, I was alone in the house and felt completely at peace. The next 3 months were a whirlwind. My attorney, Sarah Martinez, was exactly as sharp as Mrs. Chen had promised. She filed for divorce, documented 20 years of financial control and emotional abuse, and fought for every dollar I was entitled to. Derek hired 3 different law firms. He tried to claim my inheritance should be considered marital property. He tried to argue I had contributed nothing to the marriage and deserved nothing. He tried to drag Emma into it, claiming I was an unfit mother. Emma, my beautiful 18-year-old daughter, shut that down immediately. She called Derek from college and told him she knew exactly who he was, how he treated me, and that she would testify on my behalf if needed. I heard everything, Dad, she told him. For 18 years, I watched you tear Mom down. I watched her get smaller and smaller. I'm not doing this with you anymore. Derek tried to claim the house was his because it was in his name. Sarah proved I had contributed to every mortgage payment through my unpaid labor managing the household. He tried to hide assets. Sarah found them. He tried to claim I was mentally unstable. Sarah brought in witnesses, my neighbors, Eleanor and Tom, who had heard Derek yelling at me through the windows. Emma's high school teachers, who remembered how Derek spoke to me at parent-teacher conferences. Even Derek's own brother, Marcus, who testified that Derek had always been difficult with women. 6 months after I filed for divorce, we reached a settlement. I got half the house value, $425,000, half his retirement, $1,092,000, and spousal support of $5,000 a month for 10 years. Combined with my inheritance, I had over $2.4 million. Derek had to sell the house. He moved into a condo and immediately started dating his 28-year-old secretary, Jessica. I heard through Emma that he complained constantly about the divorce settlement, about how I had stolen his money, about how useless I still was. Some people never learn. I bought a small, beautiful house in Bellingham, Washington, near the water. 2 bedrooms, lots of windows, a garden. It cost $380,000, and I paid cash. I went back to school and got my teaching certification renewed. At 45, I started teaching English again at the local community college. Not because I needed the money, but because I wanted to. Because I loved it. I made new friends. Real friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. I traveled, Paris, Italy, Japan, all the places Derek had been too busy to visit with me. Emma came home for holidays, and we had long conversations about respect, independence, and never letting anyone make you feel small. Mom, she told me during Christmas break, you're like a completely different person. You smile now. You laugh. You seem free. She was right. I was free. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, I was in my garden planting roses when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Monica? It's Derek. I hadn't heard his voice in months. What do you want, Derek? I wanted to talk. Maybe we could get coffee. Why? I've been thinking a lot lately. About us, about our marriage. I made mistakes, and I want to apologize. Really apologize. I sat down on my garden bench, dirt still on my hands. Derek, why now? There was a long pause. Jessica left me. She only wanted my money. And my job has been stressful, and I realized how much you used to take care of things, and… Let me stop you right there, I said quietly. You don't miss me. You miss having someone to control, someone to belittle to make yourself feel important, someone to do all the things you didn't want to do. That's not true. Derek, for 20 years you called me useless. You made me believe I had no value. But you know what? I was never useless. I was holding our entire family together while you took credit for everything. I was raising our daughter while you worked late. I was maintaining a home, managing finances, creating a life. And I was doing it all while you told me I was worthless. Monica, please, I'm not angry anymore, Derek. I actually feel sorry for you, because you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering why people leave you, never realizing it's because you make them feel small. Goodbye, Derek. I hung up and blocked his number. That evening, I sat on my back porch, watching the sunset over Bellingham Bay. In my hand was a cup of tea and my grandmother's letter, which I had framed and hung in my bedroom. Financial independence is freedom, she had written. She was right, but she had given me something even more important than money. She had given me permission to value myself, to know my worth, to understand that I was never useless. My name is Monica Harper. I'm 46 years old. I'm a teacher, a mother, a friend, and a woman who finally understands her worth. And I am anything but useless. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.